Did these cold-blooded carnivores consume Mike Williams after he accidentally fell out of his boat and drowned? Or was the successful, handsome 31-year-old husband, father, and seasoned duck hunter the victim of foul play?
The search for Mike Williams was exhaustive. There were divers in the water, helicopters above, search crews on the ground with dogs, and they searched for 44 days, more than 700 man-hours, and they never did find Mike or his body.
Incredibly, investigators believe there may have been nothing left of Mike after the alligators. His heartbroken mother is tortured by that thought, but says it wasn't the gators that got her son.
I wasn't there to help you. How did you die? Were you in pain? Was it quick? It's horrible.
Every single person that went missing on that lake had been found, recovered, whatever. This was extremely unusual.
Adding to the mystery, Special Agent Devaney is told alligators become zombie-like. They almost hibernate and don't really eat in wintertime.
Word got out that maybe Mike was eaten by alligators, and a lot of people just assumed that's what happened to Mike. However, a lot of the folks who had been around alligators, who had been around this lake, rather discounted that because alligators don't eat people whole.
Then after months of searching for Mike, a strange clue suddenly surfaces.
All of a sudden, a hat appears. But why wasn't the hat found during that 10-day time period? It was floating on the surface, again, real close to the area where Mike put in his boat. People couldn't quite figure that out.
They turned to Mike's best buddy, Brian Winchester.
Mike's friend, Brian Winchester, examined the hat, and he told the folks, this looks like a hat Mike may have owned.
But Agent Devaney says a DNA test is inconclusive.
Very suspicious.
Things get even stranger when a fisherman scoops up a pair of waders. They're the same kind Mike was wearing when he fell overboard, but there's something mysterious about them too.
Let's talk about the mystery. When you found the waders, was there any remnant of a human being in there?
There's, no body parts in there. There's no sign where an alligator has tore on the waders whatsoever. They were completely intact.
What do you make of that?
This was 6 months after the initial search started, and you wonder, how did we miss this all this time? We can't connect the dots there.
A short time later, divers at the scene pull up Mike's hunting jacket. His hunting license is still legible. Even his flashlight is still working after 6 months in the water.
Wasn't that proof that he probably did drown?
The condition of these items were so pristine that there was no way that they would have been at the bottom of this lake, which is mossy and algae coated. They were too new. They were so clearly planted.
Jennifer Portman is the news director at the Tallahassee Democrat. She'd never heard about the case until 6 years after Mike mysteriously went missing.
What is it that got you interested?
Well, I was actually reading our newspaper and saw an advertisement that said, "Have you seen my son?" And it was this narrative that went down, written by Cheryl Williams. Her son had disappeared at Lake Seminole. They said he was eaten by alligators. It was this incredible mystery. I couldn't believe it.
You see, Mike's mom, Cheryl, never gave up hope of finding her beloved son. She took out full-page ads in the newspaper and on billboards asking the public for help. She even took to the streets calling for a criminal investigation. But Mike's mom says her pleas fell on deaf ears all the way up to the governor's office.
I had to write this story, and so I went ahead and started reporting it.
So what is it that you found interesting in it?
The alligators eating immediately was the thing that, as a reporter, I was like, what? It just seemed so bizarre. And then I started going through the reporting of it, and the record was so thin, but there were these clues, because of course he died without a will, so the wife declaring him dead after 6 months, never finding the body, it just all seemed very strange.
So why do you think it didn't get as much news attention at the time?
He was looked at as someone who drowned in Lake Seminole. We had a brief in the newspaper, was never followed up. At the time, his wife, Denise Williams, was not interested in publicity, and so it just kind of disappeared.
Friends and family say Mike's wife, Denise, was devastated. After all, she was only 31, a widow with a young daughter to raise alone. She and Mike had dated since the 9th grade at a private Christian school. It was almost cliche. He was a football jock, and she was a cheerleader.
He wanted more out of life than he had growing up.
Mike was on the fast track of success. He held down 2 jobs through college. One was with Ketchum Real Estate Appraisers.
Would you say that Mike Williams was a successful businessman?
If you measure success by money, he was successful. He was successful in that he had a beautiful wife and he had his daughter Ansley that he dearly loved. So yeah, I think by most standards he would be successful.
Normally in Florida, you have to wait 5 years before a missing person can be legally declared dead. But just 6 months after Denise's husband vanished without a trace, she asked for the state to issue his death certificate.
I had no idea. I was shocked.
And what was the evidence Denise used to convince a judge her husband met his demise at the bottom of the lake? His hunting jacket, hunting license, a working flashlight, and the pristine pair of waders with no alligator holes.
You think this evidence was planted?
We're convinced the evidence was planted.
Cheryl's crusade to open a criminal probe seemed to enrage her daughter-in-law.
After Mike disappeared, she threatened me. She said, if you do anything to get a criminal investigation, you're going to lose access to Ansley, my granddaughter. I'd already lost my husband. I lost Michael, and now she's telling me I'm going to lose Ansley. I said, what if that were Ansley missing? Would you not look for her? She said, that's different. I have to go on with my life. I don't ever want to hear Mike's name. I don't ever want to see Mike's face.
To this day, a heartbroken Cheryl hasn't seen her adorable granddaughter. It was time for me to have a chat with Denise.
Denise? Okay, let's go.
Then Crime Watch Daily sent a producer back to her house, but when she saw us coming, Denise took off out of the driveway. Coming up next, a bombshell revelation.
What was Brian Winchester's role in all of this?
Is this a case of the ultimate betrayal?
Was it like a dagger in the heart?